Sing Goddess, The Wrath of the Fonz, Smoke Pit Fairy Tales Part 2, Chapter 13, If That Railroad Train Was Mine. I don't know how many people can say they know from experience that being hungover in a prison cell is only slightly better than being hungover in a firefight, but I was now one of the few. I hadn't seen Hector or Paris for days. I tried to sleep to pass the time when the guards weren't amusing themselves by kicking my ass. They'd come in intervals. One would hold me and the other would punch me until he was tired, and then they'd leave. Luckily, all the fractures in my ribs were on my backside. I talked to Doc when we had something to talk about. I saw DeLaGarza and Fonz come and go from Hector's little talks. I don't know if they saw me in my cell, but I'm sure they'd seen me going to the interrogations in the days prior. After an absolutely joyful meeting between a guard's boot and my ass, I laid on the floor looking at the bricks that divided the walls. I was holding on to my sanity. I had no doubt that I could keep it up, however, I didn't want to. I crossed my arms and propped my shoulder up on the base of the toilet to make my ribs feel better. My face hurt, but not as much as my stomach. I told myself that I'd been through worse. Then I wished that the drill instructors were allowed to beat you senseless in boot camp to help people get prepared for this kind of shit.
I guess Sears for that. It's too bad I didn't go.
I closed my eyes and tried to imagine myself somewhere else. Before I could get too far away from my own mind, I heard a scratching noise. I unsheathed my eyes and looked at the wall. One of the bricks was moving away. There had become a small hole in the bottom of the wall, just big enough to see Doc's mouth.
I don't think they're done with you, Hank.
Oh, yeah?
They do the same thing to everyone. Hector and Paris make you feel at home. Then you don't see them for a while, and the guards rough you up. In a few more days, Hector and Paris will rescue you from the evil guards, and you'll be prompted to talk more.
That'll be fun. I haven't been telling them anything anyway.
You're always gone for a long time to not be talking.
Oh, yeah, no, I talk, but I tell them bullshit information they can find on the internet. I talked to them for about an hour about the forward assist on the M16 and how useless of a weapon it was. Stuff that isn't classified, but they think's important just because they don't know. Like, for a while I just bitched about the commandant and the sergeant major of the Marine Corps.
Hey, you'd be surprised what that tells them.
What do you mean?
If you're complaining about the chain of command, that tells them that your morale is low, and that they may find a way to use that against you.
And how would they do that?
They could put out a broadcast via loudspeaker, or drop leaflets with messages that chip away at your morale and confidence and make it easier for them to kill you.
Somehow I doubt that anyone is ever going to be less efficient just because they read a message from the enemy. How do you even know this shit, Doc?
Just be careful what you tell them.
You dug a hole to my cell just to tell me that.
No. I think I can work these bricks so that I can take the wall apart and then we can jump the guards.
Really?
Yeah, but it's going to take a few weeks. I've been working that one brick since we've been here.
How do you know how to do that?
Don't worry about it.
All right. The next few days, or weeks, or hell, maybe even only hours, Doc and I worked the wall. I couldn't keep track of time. The kickings weren't on a schedule, and the rare meals weren't regimented. There were no windows, and the light never dulled their glow. One by one, brick by brick. One of us always kept a lookout for the guards, and we never had more than one brick out of the wall at a time. We'd rush to put the bricks back when it was time for the beatings or while the guards were entertaining themselves with the other prisoners. We finally got enough of the bricks loose that we thought that while I was getting hammered, Doc could push down the wall. I was supposed to yell ultra-violence when I was pinned to the floor and the guard was on top of me. That way, most of the bricks would hit the guard, and my face might be spared a few more bruises. Hey, guys! I cheered sarcastically as the two guards stopped in front of my cell.
I'm about to smash your fucking skulls.
One of the guards barked something at me and motioned me to move away from the door. I put my hands in the air. Okay, Ivan, I know the drill. One guard grabbed my collar and pushed me back to the wall above the toilet. The second one stepped into the cell. An arm and a Marine's camouflaged sleeve reached from behind the second guard. I looked behind the guy with his hand around my throat, and he smiled, saying something in Russian. The arm grabbed the other guard's pistol and whacked him in the head. When his body made a thud, my guy turned his head to investigate. Fonz jolted through into the cell and shoved the pistol into the guard's mouth. The guard fell to his knees and started to plead. I snatched a brick out of the wall and turned the Russian's head into red jello. Fonz, how the fuck did you...
No.
He bent down and took the keys from the guard's belt. I took the pistol from the other guard who was lying on the floor. On the way out of the cell, I stomped on the first guard's neck until his chest stopped rising. Who else is here?
Let's find out.
All right. I stopped at the door. Hey, Doc. Ultraviolence.
You have the keys, don't you?
Let's get Doc first, Fonzie. Fonzie slid the key into the lock on Doc's door. When they made eye contact, Fonzie looked back at me. We opened the other cells. DeLaGarza sprang to the door when we arrived. All of us had the shit kicked out of us. There were Marines in the other cells.
Who are you guys?
Fonzie asked, releasing them.
Echo 2-7.
One of the 12 other Marines responded.
Shit, you survivors at the air raid?
Yep,
Are we in Ilium?
think so.
Alright, let's get out of here.
We left the cell block. Fonzie and I led. We were the only ones armed. We knew the interrogation room was to the left, so we went right. We stopped at the first intersecting hallway. Fonzie peeked his head around the corner.
There's a guard at the desk by the door. He's reading a magazine or something. Hank, you come with me. Rest of you stay here.
Fonzie and I crept down the hall towards the man reading at the desk. His nose was stuck in a Russian porno mag. When we got to the desk, the soldier looked up as if he were expecting to see someone passing by. His eyes grew wide. Fonzie grabbed a pin from the desk and stabbed him in the neck. The soldier tried to yell, but he had a hole in his windpipe. Only gurgles were released from his throat. He fell on the ground and the two of us stomped him until the blood stopped pumping. I grabbed his gun and Fonzie grabbed the keys. There was a room behind the desk. I peeked in. There were shelves of all sorts of random things, mostly boxes for files, but on the far end, I saw our gear. Hey, Fonz, our shit's in here. Our little group entered the room. We brought in the dead guard and stashed him in the janitor closet. We got to the desk with our packs.
They have our weapons somewhere else.
Yeah, but they didn't take everything.
Doc pulled his tomahawk out of his pack. My axe was in mine. Why did they leave these? The other Marines had their gear there too and were digging for anything useful.
Hey, just stay what you need. Fuck bringing the pack, fuck the flak and Kevlar. We have almost no ammo and that shit'll just slow us down.
Those motherfuckers took my cigarettes! I looked through my pack. I was a little happier when I found my lighter.
I fucking love the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps fucking loves me.
My Alice pack had sentimental value. I brought it along. We went back out to the hall, all with knives, guns, and axes. Fonzie stood by the next door ready to shoot anyone who entered, and I signaled for the others to come. When they got near, I handed an unarmed Echo Company Marine the extra pistol. We lined up on the wall behind Fonzie as much as we could, and he eased to open the door. Before we could go through, a Russian passed by behind the line of Marines. The last man in the line punched the soldier in the face, and before he could land, the Marine put him in a headlock and stabbed the soldier's eyes out. The Marine's arm was too tight around the soldier's neck for him to scream. He kept tightening it, and there was a crunch, and the body went limp. Another Marine helped him carry the body to the storage room. Fonzie looked back at us.
There's a couple of buildings across the street. I think we can all fit in between them if we rush. There's a spotlight that passes by a couple times a minute. Next time it passes, we're gonna book it.
Fonzie looked back through the crack in the door.
Shit!
Fonzie flung the door open, but instead of running out, he brought in a Russian soldier by the hair and flung him to the ground. The soldier pointed his AK at Fonzie, and the Marine I gave the pistol to shot him in the face. He passed his pistol to the next Marine and took the Russian's rifle.
Okay, let's go!
Fonzie bolted across the street. The rest of us followed. We landed in an alley between buildings and crept to the other side. It was night, but well lit. Ilium still had power. We left the alleyway in favor of a storage area lined with big metal shipping containers. We snuck through them without being noticed.
Gentlemen,
Now what's up?
I can see the wall.
Which direction?
He pointed to the 7-story steel and concrete ramparts of the fortress in the distance.
How fucking big is this place?
DeLaGarza asked.
That's only 500 meters away. We can make that.
The sirens blared alarm.
Shit! Anyone not okay with running that far?
No one rejected the idea, and we took off in a single-file line towards the wall. Before we got halfway, Fonzie stopped. There was nothing else between the wall and us except open ground and scrambling Russian soldiers. Fonzie ducked us behind the last building we could use for cover. DeLaGarza sweat.
What do we do?
I don't know. Running for it is suicide.
There was a manhole.
Where?
30 meters back. This place has got its own electricity, but I doubt it has its own plumbing. I got up and, trying to keep my cool, went as fast as I could to the manhole while keeping my eye out for Ivan. We got there without being noticed, and Doc helped me pull up the cover. I heard troops running somewhere near us. Marines without weapons, go first. The Marines started pouring in. The four of us with guns pointed them in different directions, waiting to get spotted and gunned down by the Russians. I heard barking and screaming, and then bullets. Attack dogs and soldiers were rushing towards us, firing. Everyone was down the hole besides Fonzie, Doc, and me. Doc emptied his magazine at the Russians. When the first of the dogs reached us, he beat its head with an AK, then threw it at the next animal. He jumped in the hole without grabbing the ladder. Fonzie pushed me in. I fell 15 or 20 feet and landed on DeLaGarza. Fuck, my ribs!
Come on!
DeLaGarza pushed me off and crawled up the tunnel in front of me. Fonzie slid down the ladder. Our little group slithered through the concrete pipes. I was glad it ended up being a drain and not a sewer. It wasn't much wider than my shoulders, and turning around wasn't an option. After we had gotten a little ways down, pops came from behind. It sounded like grenades, but the route had turned enough that they didn't affect us. The tunnel wasn't lined with shit or anything that could have been flushed, but it was plenty filthy. Mostly runoff of mud and roaches. Lots and lots of roaches. Their guts were displayed on the walls from the people in front of me. When live ones made it up my way, I tried not to crush them, but I couldn't help the ones that crawled up my sleeve. It was pitch black. None of us had flashlights. I kept touching DeLaGarza's foot to make sure I didn't get lost. Fonzie kept hitting mine. Since the head of the train had no light, we slugged through the drain. We snaked for hours. Finally, there came a little light. I waited my turn and pulled myself out of the concrete tube. We were on a riverbed. The city's silhouettes blocked the starlight. Ilium's sirens were still blaring in the distance, but there was gunfire closer. I peered over the sidewalk by the river. There were a couple of dead Russians lying in the street. The windows of the buildings lit up for an instant every time a bullet cracked. Fonzie turned to us. He gave one of the Echo Marines his pistol. He nodded at mine.
Hank, give that to someone.
I tossed the pistol to an unarmed Marine.
DeLaGarza, Doc, Hank, and I are gonna grab this guy's guns and scout this shit. Everybody else stay here.
We slid up over the ledge, covered in dirt, mud, bug guts. I gripped my tomahawk tight. We got to the dead Russians. Each of the four of us took a rifle and as many full magazines as they had left and crept up to the buildings with the guns. There was only one house firing from the side we were on. Across the courthouse were several other structures raining lead onto the one we were about to enter. Fonzie went to the door first. We cleared the first floor without seeing a soul and crept up the stairs. As we paced down the hallway, someone opened the door. It was dark, but from the silhouette of his helmet, we could tell he was Russian. Fonzie beat him in the face with the muzzle of his newly acquired AK. The Russian staggered behind him. Fonzie crushed his face with his buttstock. A second soldier came to check on his buddy. I pulled the trigger on the AK. Click! The fucking thing was jammed. How the fuck does an AK jam? The soldier raised his weapon towards me. I chucked the rifle at him. As he swatted it away, I lunged at him with my tomahawk over my head. My first strike hit his helmet and slid off. The soldier clawed it. I swung again into his neck. While Fonzie and I beat down the soldier who came out of the door, Doc and DeLaGarza stuck the ends of the rifle into the room and turned the other soldiers into Swiss cheese. Then, the only fire we heard was coming at us from the other buildings. We pulled the ammo and weapons off the dead troops and hurried back outside. Whoever was shooting at Ivan realized there was no fire coming back and ceased theirs.
Stay here.
Fonzie headed towards the courtyard the bullets had flown over. He held his rifle over his head in a surrendering stance. When he made it to the center of the yard, he threw his weapon to the ground. A few moments later, a group of men appeared from one of the buildings with their rifles pointed at the Fonz, then tackled him. There was some shouting, but I didn't catch any of what was said. I couldn't tell who the people were. It was too dark. One of the men pulled Fonzie up, shook his hand, and handed him back his weapon. Fonzie led the other men towards the three of us.
Marines, they're on our side.
You kinda figured that, Sergeant?
DeLaGarza replied.
Hello,
Said one of the men in a German accent. We went back and picked up the Marines from the riverbank. The German soldiers took us on their patrol back to their fob. Their condition wasn't any better than ours. We told their commanding officer our story. He spoke enough English to get the point across. He put us up in a shut-up church and gave us some of their MREs and thick wool blankets.
we will radio your command and get you back in the morning.
One of the soldiers told us.
If you need anything, we are in the building across from the street.
Hey man, you got any cigarettes? The soldier threw me a pack of Reds and waved goodbye. Danke. We sat in the pews eating the food the Germans gave us. You know, this shit's probably not actually good. I ate what could only be identified as something with a plastic spoon.
But you're so hungry it doesn't even matter?
Yep. I smiled for the first time since God knows how long. And it's better than that shit the Russians were feeding us.
Those motherfuckers. They were trying to be all nice and shit, buttering us up, and then pow! Kicked in the dick.
Yeah, I just bitched about Amos to him.
Really? That's kind of funny. I told him about La Chupacabra.
I thought you weren't Mexican.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
Doc grabbed the smokes and pulled out his lighter.
Yeah, and explaining that shit to command is gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's not our fault, though. DeLaGarza sneered.
Goddamn Air Force!
His eyes were sad. I would say he was just a kid, but he survived this long, and that would be insulting to call anyone what we'd been through, a child. Fonzie put his hand on DeLaGarza's shoulder.
Shit happens, man. The Air Force has almost killed me as many times as the enemy has. That's Sergeant Allensworth and Doc.
Yeah, when we were in Afghanistan, they dropped JDAMs more than once on the wrong side of the fight.
Yeah. Like, one time in Nalzad, they dropped a JDAM behind us, and we're like, dude, the bad guys are over there, dipshits. None of that seemed to help DeLaGarza's mood. I offered him a cigarette. He and Fonzie took one. I flipped the pack back towards me.
I swear to God, though, if I ever see Hector or Paris again, I'm gonna stab him in the fucking neck.
Doc winced at Fonzie.
Really, dude?
Why not?
No, I mean, that's the best you can come up with. No butchering to ground beef and butt-fucking their corpses while you make a necklace from their dicks? You're better than that, Fonz.
We all chuckled, even the Marines trying to sleep in the pews, eavesdropping on our conversation. I'm sure you'll think of something better when you get there. I took a deep, relaxing fill of nicotine and leaned back on the pew. A lightning bolt of pain shot up my back.
Doc!
Yeah, dude?
I think I broke a rib.
When?
When that fucking A10 blew me into a tree.
Does it hurt?
Only when I touch or lean on it.
Take off your shirt and turn around.
Doc ran his fingers up my spine.
Does this hurt?
No. He moved his hand.
Does this hurt?
No.
How about this?
He tried a different spot on my back. No.
How about...
Yep, that's the one!
I jumped forward in my seat. Doc went and sat back at his pew.
It's not hindering your breathing or anything?
No.
You'll be alright. All you can really do for that is deal with it.
Lame. Hey everybody, what's up? How you doing? Thanks for listening to this episode of Sing Goddess, The Wrath of the Fonz, Smoke Pit Fairy Tales Part 2, Chapter 13. I'd like to thank the cast: Chuck LaVoki, Travis Wiedemann, John Q, Haskell, Bob White, Matthew Kupcikevicius, and Steve Fisanick. A few little updates on what is going on over here on my end. For the next book, I've got them... Oh, actually, do you know what? No, this whole book is on Audible. If you don't want to wait for me to read it all to you, here, you can just go buy the audiobook. Use that Audible token on me, pal. But anyway, this book will be wrapped up on YouTube, I think the first week of March. And I'm already working on the third book. Well, I'm not, talking into the microphone yet. I'm still getting everyone else's voices together. I've got about a quarter of them. I got all the scripts sent out. And with exactly this much luck, I should be uploading chapters to Patreon by the beginning of February. I hope. It might be a little bit later than that. It just kind of depends on how fast I get what in, because one of my big issues with making this book, the second one, I said to a couple of my voice actors that it was okay just to get me, stuff chapter by chapter, as we went, and that didn't pan out well. So I want to get all of everything that I am going to need to make the third book at all before I press record and, start doing my thing on it, which we're moving along towards. So anyway, I got that coming down the rails. But of course, if you don't want to wait for that, you can just read these books or go get the war chests, that one. I'm working on getting the war chest together, or the second war chest together for the last half of these books, because Smoke Pit Fairy Tales 10 came out last Friday, I think. And then the 11th book is coming out the first Friday of March, or February. And then the last book in the Smoke Pit Fairy Tales series is also going to be published in March. So we're kind of wrapping up an era on that, huh? But anyway, the first 6 books are in the first war chest, and the second 6 books will be in the second war chest. And then there'll also be like a big war chest bundle thing that you can be able to get, once it's all out. I'm working on getting a second patch made so you don't get the same patch in each one. And, the friggin' postcards and stickers and all that, they're kind of random, so, that'll be easy to flesh out once we get to that point. But anyway, things are starting to move along. I will say, though, just because, I do want to vent a little bit, and this is not y'all's fault at all. This is the world. But before Smoke Pit Fairy Tales 10, hit the shelf, I think I reached out to about 100 different outlets, just to be like, hey, I got a new book coming out. Maybe do you want to talk about it or talk about me or X, Y, Z, whatever. It was all tailored, individually to, kind of like fit into whatever each specific outlet's thing would be. And it was everybody from, sci-fi magazines down to friggin' Home and Garden, Easy Rider got back to me, and we had some back and forth. Ultimately, they're not going to run anything with it, but, it was cool that they wrote back. And then there was a couple here and there's, not more than 5 that, sent me an email saying, hey, this sounds interesting. I want to talk about this. And then, after I replied to that email, never heard anything back. I did, though, do an interview with Task and Purpose, so I'm excited for whenever that's coming out. I had an interview with them 2 or 3 weeks ago, and, it was fun. We talked on the phone for, I don't know, maybe about an hour, just, talking about me, the books, how they relate to this and that. And I'm excited for whenever that article comes out. I mean, I talked to them 2 or 3 weeks ago and haven't heard from them since then, but I'm sure that article is coming out at some point in this near future. It'd be nice to get a little publicity on these things that I don't have to do, quite all the footwork myself. Like a lot of this is just me going on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever and being like, hey, check out my books. And I do know that some of you are, liking, sharing, commenting, telling your friends in real life that, hey, there's this, book thing called Smoke Pit Fairy Tales that, you might enjoy, so check it out. But, I mean, I am just a little bit frustrated that, everything's got to be word of mouth, And I'm not sure what the deal with that is. Maybe I'm just not making enough noise. I don't know. But hey, you're watching, so that's a plus. And thank you very, very much for being here. All right, if I haven't already, thank you very much to, again, you for watching this, and people who have gotten the war chest, and people who are following me and subscribed over at Patreon. So that all helps. Thank you all very, very much. I'll see you next week. All right, here are your bloopers. Ciao.
No, I think we can work these bricks. Hey, just take what you need. Fuck bringing the pack. Fuck the flak and Kevlar. We have almost no ammo, and that shit'll just slow us down. That shit'll slow us. Hey, slow us. I don't even know if that's my line. You're such a Hemingway about this crap.
Can't even burp right. A name means nothing on the battlefield. I've never fought for anyone but myself. It's only when I'm cheating death on the battlefield, the only time I feel truly alive. It's easy to forget what a sin is in the middle of a battlefield. I'm just a man who's good at what he does. Killing a Putin bot. A weapon to rival Metal Gear. Damn, this really is rough. Jesus. Metal Gear.